My friends, every generation inherits a choice to build walls or open doors, a choice to fear change or to shape it. Today, we stand at a crossroads once again. Our world is shifting, our communities are evolving, and our economies are searching for new life. And in the heart of that renewal lies a story as old as humanity itself, the story of immigration. Immigration is not merely about movement across borders, it is about the movement of hope, talent, and possibility. It is about people, men and women who arrive not to take, but to contribute, not to replace, but to rebuild. In every forgotten town, in every quiet neighborhood, you can see their fingerprints on progress. When immigrants arrive in a new land, they do not simply step into an economy, they breathe life into it. They bring with them ideas forged through necessity, creativity born from struggle, and a hunger for opportunity that rekindles the spirit of enterprise wherever they go. Their ambition becomes a spark that ignites dormant towns, tired industries, and forgotten markets. In places where factories once closed and streets fell silent, you can see small shops reopening, new startups forming, and local trade returning. It is the immigrant spirit that refuses to surrender to despair, that sees possibility where others saw decline. They take on the jobs that keep economies running, from the fields that feed us to the hospitals that heal us, but they do more than fill gaps. They create momentum. Every small business opened by an immigrant becomes a source of employment for others, immigrant and local alike. Every new product, every service introduced, every corner store reopened sends ripples of growth through the community. Economists may describe this in graphs and numbers, but what truly happens is human, a renewal of energy, optimism, and purpose that cannot be measured in statistics alone. History shows this pattern again and again. The neighborhoods that once struggled begin to hum with new activity. Streets once dark now glow with open signs, food trucks, and laughter. Children walk to schools that were once at risk of closing. Tax bases grow, infrastructure improves, and entire regions rediscover their potential. Immigrants often work longer hours, save more diligently, and reinvest their earnings back into their communities. They don't just seek success for themselves, they build pathways for others to succeed alongside them. Their contribution is not limited to economics. The immigrant entrepreneur often redefines what is possible in a place that had stopped believing in possibility. Where others saw empty storefronts, they saw opportunity. Where others saw decline, they saw a challenge. And in pursuing their dreams, they breathe new life into local economies that once seemed lost to time. That is how immigration becomes not just a source of labor, but a catalyst of renewal, turning stagnation into growth, decline into hope, and forgotten towns into living, thriving centers of opportunity once again. Across countless towns and small communities, there are places that once thrived with purpose, streets where neighbors gathered, children played, and businesses flourished. Over time, as industries changed and younger generations moved away in search of opportunity, those same towns grew quieter. The stores closed, the schools emptied, and hope seemed to fade from the air. What was once the heart of a community began to feel like a shadow of its past. And then something remarkable began to happen. New families arrived. They spoke different languages, carried different traditions, but shared one simple belief that every place, no matter how forgotten, could become home again. Immigrants have a way of seeing what others overlook. Where some see an abandoned building, they see the site of a future bakery. Where others see a failing main street, they imagine a row of shops buzzing with life. Their resilience and determination transform neglect into opportunity. The arrival of these families often marks the turning point, not just economically, but emotionally, for communities that had given up on themselves. They repaint walls, reopen stores, plant gardens, and bring color back to gray places. What follows is more than renewal, it's rebirth. You can walk through these towns and feel the change. A cafe that had been empty for years now smells of fresh bread baked by a family that came from across the ocean. Markets open on weekends where local and immigrant vendors stand side by side, selling produce and handmade goods. Children with diverse backgrounds laugh together in parks that had once been silent. The sound of music, languages, and laughter becomes the new heartbeat of these communities. Schools that were once closing now see rising enrollment, local festivals return, and pride slowly replaces despair. The revitalization immigrants bring goes beyond mere population growth. It's cultural oxygen. They bring fresh ideas, new skills, and global connections that integrate the local with the wider world. They create demand for goods and services, attract new investments, and revive housing markets that had been declining for decades. Even more profoundly, they bring energy, that unmistakable sense of drive that only comes from people who still believe in the promise of hard work and possibility. Culture is the heartbeat of any nation. It is the living expression of who we are, where we've come from, and what we aspire to become. When immigrants arrive, they do not simply add to that culture, they expand it, transform it, and give it new dimensions. Their traditions, languages, and art do not erase what exists, they enrich it. Every dish shared, every song sung, every festival celebrated becomes a new thread in the tapestry of a nation's identity. What emerges is not a clash of worlds, but a harmony of differences, a living, breathing culture that grows stronger with every new voice that joins it. Walk through a city touched by immigration, and you can feel this evolution everywhere. The scent of spices from a distant land mingles with the aroma of local favorites. Street corners that once stood silent now echo with new rhythms. Music from across the globe played by young people who call both places home. Festivals once confined to a single culture now bring entire communities together. Flags, foods, and stories intertwine, and through this mingling, a deeper understanding takes root. The immigrant does not erase the old culture. They remind it of its openness, its adaptability, its willingness to evolve. This cultural renewal is not confined to the arts or cuisine. It reshapes how people think, how they see the world, and how they treat one another. When we encounter different traditions, our own values are tested, refined, and strengthened. Children grow up speaking multiple languages, bridging worlds effortlessly. Classrooms filled with diversity become places of empathy, where young minds learn that identity is not a fixed line, but a spectrum of experiences. Through this, societies become more innovative, more compassionate, and more resilient. Every immigrant journey begins with a dream, a vision of a better life shaped by courage, sacrifice, and hope. It is a dream that transcends borders, one that has driven humanity forward since the beginning of civilization. The belief that through hard work and determination, one can create a better tomorrow. This dream does not belong to one nation or one people. It belongs to everyone who dares to start over. Immigrants carry this dream across oceans, deserts, and cities. They leave behind familiar lands not because they reject them, but because they believe in something greater. The promise that effort and perseverance can rewrite destiny. When they arrive in a new country, they bring not just their belongings, but their spirit, the deep conviction that no obstacle is too great to overcome. They take the jobs that are hard to fill, the hours that others might avoid, the paths that are uncertain, and through it all, they build foundations not only for their families, but for entire communities. Their hands raise the buildings that define skylines, their ideas fuel new businesses, and their persistence restores faith and possibility. Each act of labor, each moment of resilience, carries within it a silent message the dream is alive. This shared dream also binds generations together. Parents work tirelessly, not for recognition, but for the promise of giving their children what they never had. And those children, growing up between two worlds, carry the torch forward, educated, ambitious, and deeply aware of the sacrifices that paved their way. They embody the very essence of renewal, merging the wisdom of their heritage with the opportunities of their new home. Their success becomes proof that the dream is not a myth, but a living truth, one built through effort, struggle, and faith. In a world that often feels divided by politics, by race, by fear of difference, immigration stands as one of the most profound reminders of our shared humanity. It is a living testament to the truth that progress is never born from isolation, but from connection. Every time a person crosses a border seeking a better life, they are, in essence, building a bridge between cultures, between generations, between what we were and what we might yet become. Immigration challenges us to look beyond lines on a map and see people for what they truly are, bearers of dreams, of talents, of stories that enrich the whole of society. The immigrant experience is an act of faith, faith that strangers can become neighbors, and that a foreign land can one day feel like home. In that faith lies a quiet courage, the kind that softens prejudice and reshapes communities from the inside out. When newcomers move into towns that once seemed close to outsiders, they do something remarkable. They open doors, not just for themselves, but for others. They volunteer, they start small businesses, they join local schools and churches and sports clubs. They bring diversity not as a disruption, but as a bridge, a way for different people to learn about one another. Slowly, misunderstandings fade, replaced by friendship, empathy, and shared goals. Building bridges does not mean ignoring challenges. It means facing them with compassion instead of fear. It means understanding that while change can be uncomfortable, it is also necessary for renewal. When a society opens its heart to immigrants, it invites innovation, creativity, and empathy to take root. When it closes its doors, it risks stagnation, not only of its economy, but of its spirit. The societies that thrive are those that refuse to be defined by what divides them. They choose connection over suspicion, dialogue over silence, and cooperation over conflict. Every generation is called to continue the work of renewal, to take what was built before and breathe new life into it. Immigration, at its heart, is one of the greatest forces behind that renewal. It is not a temporary event. It is an ongoing story of hope, courage, and contribution. A society's vitality depends on whether it can embrace this process, whether it can see newcomers not as strangers, but as partners in progress. The future of any nation is shaped not just by the wealth it creates, but by the spirit it welcomes. And that spirit is what immigrants bring in: abundance, determination, creativity, and the unwavering belief that tomorrow can be better than today. Every immigrant who steps onto new soil carries within them a quiet but powerful promise, the promise to build, to work, to belong. They do not ask for guarantees of success, they ask for a chance to try. That chance, when given, has always paid back more than anyone could measure. Across decades and across continents, we see the same pattern repeat itself. Immigrants arrive, they struggle, they adapt, and then they thrive, and when they thrive, their communities thrive with them. Their success becomes the country's success. Their story becomes the country's story. That is the rhythm of renewal, the heartbeat of progress itself. My friends, the story of immigration is, and has always been, the story of renewal, not just of economies or towns, but of the human spirit itself. It is the story of people who dared to believe that borders could not confine hope, that dreams could survive distance. and that the power to build a better life is greater than the fear of starting anew. When we welcome those who come in search of opportunity, we do not weaken our nation, we strengthen it. We inherit their courage, their work ethic, and their unshakable faith in possibility. They remind us of who we are at our best, a people defined not by where we come from, but by what we are willing to build together. So let us stand on the side of renewal, not with fear, but with faith. Let us build a world where differences are not barriers, but bridges, where opportunity is not guarded, but shared. Because every time we open a door to someone seeking a chance, we open a new chapter in our own story. And that story of compassion, courage, and endless renewal is what will carry us forward. It is what will keep our nations alive, our communities thriving, and our humanity whole. Thank you.